Today we're looking at some of the most broken Pokemon in the Champions VGC metagame so far, based on power and usage, as per the repository of teams that have been used thus far. The metagame is an interesting place, with a variety of team styles despite the limited Pokedex, featuring new faces like Mega Scovillain alongside old staples like Garchomp. So let's jump right in to see what's busting everything up the best, starting with Farigiraf. Farigiraf has emerged as one of the best Trick Room setters in the format, and thus one of the most crucial backbones to a defining team style. It's incredibly difficult to stop from setting up between its great bulk and crucial Armor Tail ability, which blocks opposing priority for both itself and its ally, so you can't use Fake Out to stifle the Trick Room or its teammates' immediate offensive onslaught. Farigiraf is thus incredibly immediate at getting its team's focal strategy running, but what if its weakness to Dark when Fake Out is most commonly coming from Incineroar? Not a problem, that's what the Dark move weakening Cobra Berry is for. It also means Farigiraf can take a hit from King Gambit. Farigiraf keeps the pressure up once Trick Room is active, with strong base 110 special attack alongside a solid dual stabs, including the spread move option of Hyper Voice. It can do some nice direct damage. However, it really excels in assisting its ally further with the boosting power of Helping Hand. And in addition to Fake Out never being a counterplay option, neither are any other priority moves that would normally circumvent the flip dimensions. Farigiraf is keeping its playstyle strong, a near ideal setter and partner for Trick Room threats. Now speaking of threats, onto number 9 we have Milotic. Despite the nerfs to Sleep, Milotic is doing its best to make its effects felt as if the status were in its prime. Milotic already has excellent value in its competitive ability, boosting its special attack by 2 every time its stats are lowered. In other words, it is arguably the best punish of Incineroar's Intimidate in the entire game, but now it's running an absolutely diabolical set that's pushing it to new heights. It's using Coil, whose attack boost is useless, but whose defense boost is appreciated, shoring up Milotic's lower defensive stat, but even more importantly, it boosts Milotic's accuracy, which allows it to reliably sleep opponents with the otherwise inaccurate hypnosis. This is already a pain, but where it gets really nasty is that Coil's accuracy boost also allows Milotic to run Muddy Water as its stab, no longer having to worry about its 85% accuracy backfiring on it, and thus getting to make the most of the brutal 30% accuracy drop, which threatens both opponents since Muddy Water is a spread move. Taking Milotic out is already a tough task, and with its defense boosted, it really becomes difficult, but it becomes truly nightmarish when you can't even reliably hit it, especially since Milotic's innate Incineroar punish enables teammates like little else can. The recently concluded Champions Arena tournament saw Milotic domination. Hyungwoo Shin won the tournament with it, and his opponent in the finals, Jorge Tabuyo, also brought it. Now to number 8, another returning classic and our first Mega with Mega Tyranitar. Mega Tyranitar's all-around stat boosts are perfect to bring Tyranitar back to its former glory, allowing it to make the most of its strengths that have been so useful before. The immense power, the sand boosted special bulk, and of course the sand itself, used to both boost its own team and counter major threats on the opponents. Mega T-Tar now has the option to wield Knockoff as its dark stat. It often still goes with Crunch to hit opposing Megas harder, but the option of item removal is a great one. Meanwhile, its secondary stab is the excellent spread option of Rock Slide and the coverage of high horsepower, allowing it to smack around threats to its stabs like King Gambit. Mega Tyranitar's offensive output is amplified by how good it is defensively, and in the current metagame, its defensive presence is so crucial as to make it both a hit-taking staple and an offensive powerhouse. In a metagame overrun by the Weatherfield antics of Mega Charizard Y and Mega Frostlass, as well as Pelipper's Rain and Tailwind unleashing plenty of terror as well, Mega Tyranitar stands against them, especially Megazard Y and Frostlass with incredible ease, and it doles out a severe beating in return. It is both anti-metagame and a major part of the metagame itself. This latter half comes from the fact that it's also an outstanding supporter of its own team's strategies, namely in how it enables its own weather threat teammate Sandrush Excadrill. Sand teams are superb, and many of them also use Garchomp. Chomp is already a great Pokemon, but with Sand it has the option of using Sand Veil and its ability to dodge even 100% accurate attacks. There are fewer more frightening threats than a Chomp that you can't hit. Of course, even without Garchomp or Excadrill on the field, Mega Tyranitar is a monster. Now we move on to number 7 with another Trick Room setter, Sinistcha. Sinistcha is one of the most commonly used Pokemon in the format. It sets Trick Room with brilliance, like Farigiraf, and it's also immune to Fake Out. Though with Sinistcha, this is a result of its Ghost typing, and if need be, it can withstand even a super effective hit from Incineroar in order to get the Trick Room off, though it of course prefers not to. However, Sinistcha ups the ante beyond Trick Room, as it adds another layer of support so excellent as to merit usage and even skirt controversy of its own, redirection. With Rage Powder drawing opposing attacks towards its own solid bulk, Sinistcha unleashes the full extent of its ally's threat. Or that would be the case, but that's still not all it does for its teammates. It also heals them in multiple ways. It can take a turn to give an ally 25% health back with Life Dew, and this can certainly be effective, but even better is its Hospitality ability, which provides the same 25% as soon as Sinistcha switches in. This is one of the most elite abilities in the game. Sinistcha also reinforces its own bulk to further supporting ends with plenty of recovery of its own. It most commonly runs Citrus Berry, but thanks to its base 121 special attack, it also dishes out an effortlessly powerful stab in Matcha Gotcha, which restores half of the damage dealt and also has a 20% burn rate, as if Sinistcha weren't doing enough already. It's one of the metagame's most important support pieces. Now for a more offensive approach, we have Sneasler. Despite the nerf to its signature Dire Claw, which now only statuses its target 30% of the time as opposed to its previously outrageous 50%, as well as champions nerfing sleep and paralysis, Sneasler is still firing on all its ferocious cylinders. After all, not only is 30% still a seriously hefty proc chance, dishing out is hardly the basis of Sneasler's playstyle, more of an added bonus. A seriously good one, mind you, but it's primarily an offensive powerhouse with some amazing utility going for it as well. Dire Claw is still menacing because it's a stab coming from an amazing base 130 attack and a 120 speed with super effective coverage against fairy types, which is especially synergistic alongside Sneasler's more powerful stab, the mighty tried and true Close Combat. These two stabs coming off such speed and power are already quite impressive in their direct threat, especially as Sneasler's base 120 speed hits the same outstanding benchmark as that of Mega Frostlass and Starmie, easily getting the jump on standards already considered fast such as Garchomp, but Sneasler did so without taking up a Mega Slot, and yet it's Sneasler's utility options that push it into such outstanding territory. The all-important utility of Fake Out would already be enough for that, and that's just with 3 moves, leaving it free to run Protect in the 4th slot, or potentially going even further by assisting its teammates more with coaching. The +1 attack and defense it provides its allies with being effectively a bulk up, allowing for some excellent combinations, including boosting the ally and having the ally attack right after with the power unsuspected by the opponent. Alternatively, Sneasler could make its ally even more threatening by breaking through opponent's protection with Feint. Oh, and it gets better still, because we haven't even taken its ability or item into account, and most commonly, these two go in tandem. Once its item has been expended, Sneasler's speed doubles, meaning forget revenge killing it with some of the few faster options like choice scarfers such as Basculegion, Chlorophyll Venusaur and Sun, or Mega Aerodactyl, since activating Unburden was a piece of cake with White Herb as its item. Sneasler was already blessed as a physical attacker with a stab move that so decidedly pounded Incineroar, but with White Herb, not only are Incineroar's attempts to lead off and lower Sneasler's attack with Intimidate denied, it will immediately trigger Unburden as well. Well, what if the opponent just simply doesn't bring Incineroar? First of all, good joke. But second of all, that's just fine as well, because White Herb allows Sneasler to activate Unburden through its most powerful stab, Close Combat. CC's first hit will have its dual defense dropping effect denied, which both helps Sneasler's survivability and lets Unburden kick in. Amazingly, that's still not all. Sneasler can also opt for Focus Sash to thwart opposing counterattacks more reliably, in which case it can go for its other excellent ability, Poison Touch, and its 30% poison rate for contact moves, meaning Sneasler packs a Fake Out that can also poison. Talk about utility. The fact that its Close Combat can also poison is just icing on the cake, and of course it makes Dire Claw even likelier to leave an opponent afflicted. Sneasler going from fast to ultra fast and generally overflowing with offensive power and utility alike makes it one of the most popular, dangerous, and effective Pokemon in the metagame. It also helps that it's especially excellent against another such top threat, number 5 with King Gambit. King Gambit's great type combination alongside such enormous attack and bulk makes it as menacing as an offensive defensive powerhouse as ever, especially with Sucker Punch priority, peerless in both power and coverage, meaning counterplay is not as simple as taking advantage of its base 50 speed. The majority of neutral targets are already tremendously frightened of it, let alone ones that are weak to it, like Basculegion and the mega trio of Frostlass, Starmie, and Gengar. Though of course the low speed also makes King Gambit a terror on Trick Room teams. Now both stabs may be synergistic, with Ironhead threatening the fairy types that resist the dark stabs that scare nearly everything else, but the dual are resisted by King Incineroar. However, this isn't a problem at all. Incineroar doesn't actually want to switch into King Gambit. King Gambit would actually welcome the prospect, as its Defiant ability means Intimidate will actually give its attack a +1 boost. And while Incineroar takes all manner of weekend hits well, it doesn't do so well with the boosted one, even when resisted, especially coming from King Gambit's overwrought attack stat. It's not like King Gambit just has to brandish its resisted stabs at Incineroar either. It can outright crush it with low kick that it also often runs, but it's also not like it's running low kick just for Incineroar. After all, it dissuades and punishes its switch-ins nicely already, so this is more of a bonus. The real reason King Gambit might opt for low low kick is actually opposing King Gambit, incredibly common as it is. So much so, in fact, that one of King Gambit's most popular items is the fighting move weakening Choppleberry. It's not enough to help its quadruple weakness against, say, Sneasler close combat, but it is critical for an edge in the King Gambit mirror match. Or if both run Choppleberry, it's to simply not be at a disadvantage with how key the matchup is. You really don't want your King Gambit made a liability by the opponents. Having such a top threat invalidated and thus disproportionately being made to deal with the opponents, yeah, it's usually better to take the Chopple low kick mirror and at least come close to trading even. It's almost akin to Gen 1 Tauros. Of course, King Gambit isn't always fighting its counterpart on the opposing team, depending on its team composition, and so it also often goes with the more traditional item choice, Black Glasses, which makes its kowtow cleaves and especially sucker punches even more lethal, especially with Swords Dance in tow. King Gambit absolutely crushes the vast majority of Pokemon in the metagame. Under Trick Room, it becomes even scarier for how even outplay potential against Sucker Punch is no longer an option, and even something like Sneasler and Will-O-Wisp Rotom Wash becomes just as vulnerable against King Gambit's deluge of powerful Iron Heads and kowtow cleaves. With the limited reliability of traditional answers, Dark Weak Pokemon have also used Cobra Berry quite a bit to try and slow King Gambit down, like Farigiraf and Ceruledge. But as with all great Pokemon, even with all the efforts made specifically to take it on, there's only so much you can do with an offensive onslaught that is as overbearing as King Gambit. Now, for one of the fairy types King Gambit often squares off against, we have Mega Floette. The long-awaited Eternal Floette is, with its Mega form, finally making due on the power it promised all those years ago. And how? It's another instance of Pokemon whose stab is so good, it can run two different moves of the same type. But it actually goes even further with this. It can go so far as to run 3 different fairy moves. It's pretty much always got 2 though. It can target 2 opponents simultaneously with the spread of Dazzling Gleam for safety around opposing protects and general consistency. Or it can zero in on one target with the unvarnished, much higher power of Moonblast, should Wide Guard be a factor. If not just the extra damage, but even Dazzling Gleam's lower power lowered further to 75% of its original strength when spread across 2 opponents, still deals a seriously hefty chunk given its extraordinary base 155 special attack pumped further by its fairy aura, giving it a built-in boost slightly greater than that of a Life Orb. So if Dazzling Gleam and Moonblast are flanked by the Essential Protect, how about that 4th move slot? Something about a 3rd fairy move? Yes, it is indeed Floette's signature, recoil heavy but absurdly powerful Light of Ruin. It's not needed, and when the metagame first started, Mega Floette didn't really bother with it, since Moonblast hit plenty hard enough already. It's much stronger than Xerneas's for comparison's sake, and it also didn't impede its solid survivability with the massive damage that it dealt, translated into overwhelming recoil, which is 50% of how much damage it dealt. On a Pokemon of Floette's moderate HP stat, it didn't seem worth the trade-off. It found consistency with Calm Mind instead, able to boost against opposing protects, and then even have it spread Dazzling Gleam deal hefty damage. However, despite the recoil, sometimes Light of Ruin's astonishing burst damage is exactly what you need, and it actually gives Mega Floette great flexibility to take on pretty much anything. All it needs is as many fairy stab options as possible. Spread damage Dazzling Gleam, single target consistency Moonblast, unstoppable burst power of Light of Ruin. Who needs anything else? Of course, Mega Floette can and does run other options in that 4th move slot, and not just Calm Mind. It also successfully runs Psychic for poison types like Venusaur, and yet another fairy stab that has also been running around with Draining Kiss, which doesn't hit as hard but still does worthwhile damage considering Mega Floette's power, and provides it with a much appreciated recovery. So yes, the non-fairy options are certainly worthwhile, but overall, Mega Floette really just destroys everything with its fairy stabs, and it most commonly is running Light of Ruin as that 3rd option. Now that's great and all, but what does Mega Floette offer besides just power? What's stopping it from being a Mega Rampardos Theorem type deal? Well, even if you can withstand Mega Floette's hits, that doesn't mean you're out of the woods. Far from it, as it's no cinch to take out in return. Mono Fairy type is great typing, with many great neutralities and resists, alongside very solid natural bulk. Its HP is only okay, but even though its physical defense stat is the lower one, it's still perfectly workable. It doesn't actually fall over against physical moves, which is pretty much all it needs. And on the special side, it's actually incredibly tanky, with its base special defense not being all that far from its special attack, clocking in at a stunning 148. Also, hitting it in the first place isn't the easiest task, because it's hardly slow. It actually has Garchomp's excellent base 102 speed stat. This allows it to get the jump on a significant slew of meta standards, including base 100s, very much including Mega Charizard Y, who's next on our list. Good old Mega Charizard Y. For the first time since Generation 7, frightening as ever for its status as one of the most automatic one-hit KO artists in the game for its Fire Stab and no charged Solar Beam, fueled by Drought and astonishing special attack. In fact, with the limited limited pool of Pokemon, Megazord Y might actually be more threatening now. It's so scary, it's kicked up a seriously high amount of Aerodactyl usage, both base and Mega. And while the Aerodactyls are hardly bad Pokemon, they're fast, they hit pretty well, they have Tailwind, their usage is disproportionately high to their normal viability. They have other uses as well, but them being as popular as they are stems just about solely from the fact that they answer Megazord Y better than anything else, and by some margin. And that is really key given how badly it bludgeons just about everything. Though it's not like your options are use Aerodactyl or lose. Garchomp is also a solid answer that's everywhere since it's such a great Pokemon itself. Talonflame sees some decent use, and there are many Pokemon that can outspeed Megazord Y and hit it for good or even great damage. But in spite of this, the metagame is utterly terrified of it. Megazord Y once again is a Pokemon that uses multiple stabs. It's got the eternally consistent spread option of Heat Wave, now flanked by the utterly brutal single target option of Weather Ball, which Charizard gained in Generation 8, and thus had not been able to use it on its Mega previously. Megazord Y's Summoning Sun also makes it a tremendous supporter without easing up any of its own offensive presence. It's not required for Sun teams, which can also run Torkoal if they'd like another Mega, but Megazord Y is far preferred, because man is it great when your Sun Setter also unleashes arguably the most difficult to answer attacks in the metagame. Megazord Y teams aren't required to take advantage of the Sun, but with how dangerous Chlorophyll Venusaur is, many of them do. Chlorosaur is an especially great partner thanks to its fast sleep powder, shutting opponents down, even with the sleep nerf. Simply a turn or two of being unable to threaten the Zard Y staring you down probably means you're toast. For instance, if Zard Y protects as its Mega and Venusaur gets to sleep off on your Arrow or Chomp, even having the Zard Y check isn't necessarily going to save you, especially as Venusaur's own stabs are nothing to sneeze at. In fact, it's quite a threat itself and makes for a terrifying 1-2 punch. Having to withstand hits from both these beasts simultaneously is one of the greatest challenges in the current metagame. Incidentally, with many teams opting for 2 Megas to have some flexibility, Megazord Y pairs quite well with another dominant weather-setting Mega Frostlass. Mega Frostlass has indeed been threatening as expected. Its excellent speed and special attack are perfect for firing off a viciously powerful, synergistic pair of dual stabs, the highlight of which is the major spread damage of the Can't Miss Blizzard, supported by its Snow Warding ability. For the tremendously dangerous Ghost Stab to be the secondary option is terrifying. Mega Frostlass cleaves through many metagame standards like Garchomp, Dragonite, Sinistcha, and Mega Meganium. It just needs some support against the Kingambit that resists both stabs, and that's usually as easy as using none other than Sneasler, whose Fake Out helps Mega Frostlass work around its frailty as to better unleash its attacks as well. Meanwhile, Mega Frostlass itself is immune to Fake Out, making it threatening from the jump. Additionally, Mega Frostlass isn't quite as easy to take out in return as you'd initially think, thanks to the defense boost it receives from Snow. Sure, your Garchomp might be Scarfed, but that doesn't mean it's able to take Mega Frostlass out first. It doesn't come close to a KO before getting wiped out by Blizzard in return. Playing around Mega Frostlass is quite difficult as a whole, as if you protect around it, and it might just punish you with a substitute from which to hide behind as it barrages you. But great as a sub is, Mega Frostlass often goes beyond being its own threat into team support as well, while also supporting its own threat further, as Snow Warning enables the use of Aurora Veil. Activating dual screens in one turn is superb support in general, opening up a myriad of options for Mega Frostlass's allies, but it also makes Mega Frostlass itself quite difficult to take out, which is a major problem for such an offensively destructive Pokemon whose primary weakness is its frailty. Mega Frostlass enjoys the nerf to the special attacks aimed at it to be sure, but the real difference maker is how much better it becomes against physical moves, since Aurora Veil gets to couple with the defense boost from Snow to allow it to pull off some amazing feats. As one particularly amazing example, as long as the Mega Frostlass user works around the fact that Mega Aerodactyl is faster, they will be rewarded in that Mega Aerodactyl's Rock Slide doesn't come close to KOing. And if that doesn't do the trick, pretty much everything else you might throw at it fares worse, especially since they're likelier to be slower. For instance, Kingambit's Kowtow Cleave and Incineroar's Flare Blitz, which break around the 50% mark. It's not that Mega Frostlass will suddenly aim to take these moves regularly, but being able to do so gives it a game-breaking sort of flexibility, and that's not even getting into what it can do for its teammates. Now, both Blizzard and Aurora Veil are dependent on Snow being active, and thus Mega Frostlass must tread lightly around opposing weather forces. Most significantly and threatening, the Sun and Sand of Megazord Y and Mega T-Tar respectively, though Pelipper's Rain must also be considered. But if Mega Frostlass is held back and switches in against them, i.e. after the weather has already been active, and Mega Frostlass gets to replace it with Snow, provided reasonable circumstances like chip damage and the assistance of an ally of course, Mega Frostlass can actually turn the tables on them quite nicely. It's more than just having the freedom to hit them to the full extent of Blizzard's capabilities. It can actually Aurora Veil against them to take a hit and further open up its team up. With the Veil, it lives both Mega T-Tar stabs and takes Megazord's Spread Heat Wave, since Snow negates the single target option of Weather Ball, turning it into an ice move. Heck, this means Mega Frostlass can theoretically switch into Zard Y if it predicts a Weather Ball. Risk factor of such a gamble aside, it even goes beyond Mega Frostlass taking on these two monsters one-on-one. It's also about the fact that kicking up Snow against them allows it to threaten the weather boosters they enable. Remember Zard Y's terrifying pairing with Chlorophyll Venusaur? Well, Mega Frostlass comes in and the Chlorophyll is no longer active, with Venusaur now openly vulnerable to getting blasted by Blizzard. And to a lesser yet still significant extent, since the hit isn't super effective but still powerful, the same goes for Mega T-Tar's eternal partner, Sandrush Estradrill. Put simply, not only is Mega Frostlass an incredible threat, it can still do its thing even against the Pokemon that are supposed to most fundamentally destroy it, and even the issue of its frailty is quickly remedied, while also supporting its ally. Mega Frostlass is an extraordinary Pokemon, but number one is, well, I mean, who else could it be but Incineroar? Even a nerfed Incineroar is still far and away the best, most defining, and splashable Pokemon in the format. It currently has the most usage in the format, coming in at a 54.4%, which is almost 10% more than the next common Pokemon, Sneasler. This gulf is major, yet unsurprising, because once again, Incineroar does everything as it has for so long now. It intimidates just about anything that it comes across, barring some notable exceptions, which are notably specific for denying it, because Incineroar really does have the habit of playing around even physical attackers that hit it super effectively with incredible consistency. It doesn't have U-turn or Assault Vest anymore, but with Parting Shot, it still weakens opposing special attacks, as well as physical ones even more. And of course, it dances in and out of battle for another cycle of Intimidate and Fake Out with the precision that a switch move allows. Incineroar doesn't have knockoff anymore either, but Throat Chop as Dark Stab does the job just fine, and shutting down sound-based moves for 2 turns can thwart an opposing Incineroar's Parting Shot. Really, you just can't stop Incineroar from thwarting its opposition and enabling its allies, hence the uses on over half of teams. Even with high-powered Megas flying around, the king is still the king. It's Incineroar's metagame. And thank you so much to our Platinum patrons. Thank you to Amphozenus, Alex Sable, Anthony Belval Renault, Daniel Isbeast, Corman, Don Creek, Eric Dissing, Espion Lover, Funky, Glitcherton, Howl, Jack G, King Yabber, Nightfall, Megamon VGC, Mojo Gameslayer, Nurse Jake, One Penguin to Rule, Pretzel SP, Schmooter, Seagulls Incorporated, Sojiro Sakura, Spavoon, Skylaria, Soros and Croxton, Shiwei Miji, Stoneface Colin, Tyler, Kiboflu, Wardine, Zathor for their major support of our videos.